Hey everybody, and welcome back to Project 224, where we are committed to applying the true knowledge and wisdom found only in Christ to the everyday world around us. Everybody, we are back.
Back again.
Yes. Paul, it's been a long time.
It has been a long time.
It's been a really long time. It's
Happy
good to be
New
back.
Year.
Happy New Year.
I think this is... I mean, I know we recorded before we did a New Year's, but this is the first time that we've recorded in the New Year.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't think people... We passed 1,000.
We did? We did? That's right, we did.
We passed 1,000.
If you're part of that 1,000,
listen.
thank you so much for being part of that 1,000.
I can't believe 1,000...
Downloads.
I don't know 1,000 people, but
it's 1,000
downloads. Clicks of our downloads.
So if there's like 6 of you downloading like
yes,
60, 100 times at a time, we appreciate you.
And
Share
this
those.
is our 20th episode. 20th. And for our 20th episode, we have a first.
Yes, we do.
We have someone else. We have figured out the technology to bring somebody else on the podcast.
Yep.
So we have Colton with us, Colton Menez. Say hi, Colton.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It's going good.
So, Colton, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're originally from California, is that right?
Yeah, I'm actually from Northern California. My dad came here to be a pastor, and he was a church planter for 30 years, I think. So he's been doing it his whole life, and I've been the oldest, following him wherever he took us.
Now, in church planting, you guys were pretty remote, weren't you?
Yeah, so our first church plant that I remember, we had 50 people in the church.
Wow.
In a population of 40.
Wow.
The
so
town?
We had the whole town.
That's a good
10.
statistic.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Wow.
That's really cool.
You don't see that very often.
No.
It's great.
So you kind of grew out on the range and hunting, fishing, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You still like doing that?
Oh, I wish I could do it every day, but my new fiance is wanting me to be with her, and I am more than happy to be with her.
Wait.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
What you meant to say is, I love being with my new fiance.
Oh, I love her a lot. I definitely love her a lot.
Just trying to help you at the beginning.
That's fantastic.
She'll hear it later anyway.
Yeah,
she follows you guys too, so I'll get it later.
So, and baseball fan, right?
Oh yeah, I'm the hated Yankee fan.
I was gonna say, who's your Yankee? The Stankies.
Yankees.
Hey, 27 rings, man.
Yeah.
All fingers and toes and a couple extra.
Who's your favorite team, Paul?
So I grew up a Braves fan because we didn't have any team in Tampa, but now I'm a Rays fan.
I don't really watch baseball that much, so sorry, I'm a left out guy. I played t-ball.
There you go.
That doesn't count. That definitely does not count.
Someone has to be throwing that thing at you.
I was singing at baseball games, but that's about it. But
did you play t-ball where the string was on the ball?
no, you had to hit it off the thing and run.
So,
it didn't come back at you. No. And then I played
but
softball.
They had these
If there was a way to speed up baseball, I would probably watch it, or to make it more exciting. Like if the ball was on fire and it was coming at the guy,
first of all,
I would love
awesome.
that. Or if they had like every so often you didn't know which one, it was like an exploding ball. That would be awesome. I would be like, this is unbelievable.
Except for the people dying. I mean, that happens.
Well, not just there'll be stuff in it like cream cheese or something. Cheese. I mean, I think people would go for it. But,
That's yeah. And I don't know. Baseball is one of those games that if you don't know what's going on mentally, it's definitely boring.
Yeah.
If you don't know all the decisions people.
Wait a second. I just said it was boring to me. You just said, are you just saying I'm not there mentally?
I'm saying like in baseball. No, I'm saying so much of baseball
mine.
is a strategy game. So like, there's a lot of mental.
Right. Yeah.
Like one of the things I remember when I was
rules.
when I was an athletic trainer in college, and it was for a fast pitch softball, which same concept, not same game, but one of the things that they wanted me to try and do was to steal signs. So I would try to sit there and look at the coaches doing everything.
Wow.
And my whole thing was seeing if I could detect a pattern in the signs and then tell the coach before it got so I mean,
that's a fun job.
Yeah.
You were a thief.
So I mean, there's a lot of like mental battles that go on in there.
Right.
A lot of
It's a
statistics.
behind the scene game.
But you're right. If you don't know what's going on, you're like, dude,
it's
been 2 minutes since they threw a ball. What are you doing?
Seriously.
So, but anyway,
Cool.
so
We're glad
you
you're with
guys
us.
came and yeah, definitely happy to have you here. You guys just got back from a conference like a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah. I think it was first. Yeah. Beginning of January.
Cross 19, is that what it was called?
Yeah. I think the official is Cross for the Nations.
Yeah, Cross
Okay.
for the Nations 19.
Okay, and that was put on David Platt, right, in the International Missions Board.
Yeah, so David Platt he's kind of the head of it, the face of it, and I think he had help from Mark Dever and John Piper.
Okay.
But he was the one who took charge of it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the Gospel Coalition guys then.
Yeah. Because
cool.
I mean, the speaker, you could tell even with the speakers and stuff,
A lot of the
really
same guys.
sound. Yeah. And if you go back years, like I think when did it start? Like maybe 4 years ago, or I'm sorry,
I think it was 9 years ago.
9 years ago.
Because they
Wow.
do it every 3 years.
Right.
So this was.
You can tell it's the
third one.
same speakers usually. I think
Okay.
Piper's been in every one, stuff like that. So they keep the same type of. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny, you know, the IMB, I keep on calling it the IMF, the Hostile Mission Force. In one sense, it's kind of the same thing,
Yeah,
right?
in a way.
Should you choose?
Close enough.
Yeah. So how'd you like it overall?
You go ahead and start, Colton.
Well, I had went to T4G in April, and
What's T for G? So
Together for the Gospel.
yeah.
Which is a lot of the same guys, as well as John MacArthur. Mark Dever actually was there, and then Matt Chandler.
Now is that put on because they're both put on in Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
Is it the same? Was it the same venue or different venues?
So Together for the Gospel had 12,500 pastors and people.
That's
so
a lot.
Yeah.
they did it in the University of Kentucky Stadium.
Oh wow, yeah.
And then we had 7,500, I think, somewhere around
Yeah.
there.
Well, T4G is also open to anybody, right?
Yeah.
Where the cross conference is only 18 to 25-year-olds and they're leaders.
Okay.
So it's just like only those people can go, basically.
So a very specific group.
Yeah.
Okay.
But for that age group to have over 7,000,
That's a lot.
that's a lot of people for one purpose. So it was great.
It filled the whole upper half of a convention center
Mhm.
because I think the bottom half was like a police center or
Yeah.
police department.
It's like a police
something.
department.
So we were safe, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it was great.
Everyone's watching people at the book table. Don't steal nothing.
yeah.
They were downstairs.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So big conference. A lot of good speakers out there. And what was the theme this year? Was there a theme that was specific or something they're trying to get across?
Yeah, so they did a Genesis to Revelations, and so they were showing how Christ was through the entire Bible,
Oh, cool.
and so they went through a bunch of different. Every speaker had a certain section of the Bible that they went through, and they showed Christ in every single one of them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically our first session was in Genesis. And then by the time we left, our last session was Revelation. Now, it wasn't like every single book of the Bible, but
Sure.
the whole first part and then like the next section. So it was like those passages all together where was Christ. And it was really eye-opening.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, especially because I was thinking the whole time, how is this going to happen? You know,
I know.
how's this going to work out when they go through the whole Bible this way? But it was great.
Didn't I forget his name? He's the current leader of the Southern Baptist Convention.
J.D. Greer.
Yeah, he did a thing where he did Christ through like the whole.
Yeah. So he did this at the very beginning before his session even started. It was actually right after the worship time, and he basically went through the Old Testament and it said like Christ is this, and then there was like this little pause, and then he said, but that's not it. And then he started in Matthew, went through Revelation, and it was like by the end I had goosebumps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if you were sitting next to me or not, but whoever was sitting next to me, I remember it may have been one of the girls in our group, and I said, I'm getting goosebumps from just listening to this.
That's
You know,
awesome.
when you're just reminded of how Christ is throughout the entire scriptures, and people are like, well, where's Christ in this? Man, he's everywhere in the Bible.
Right.
You know? So it was just really good encouragement in that.
definitely.
So who are you guys most looking forward to see speak? Let's do like before, and let's say who before you're like going to, and maybe a surprise speaker that you're like, I wasn't expecting that, but he was really good.
Yeah. For me, probably the biggest one that I really wanted to see again was seeing John Piper.
Yeah.
I saw him for the first time in person in
Crazy little man.
Hey man, he would be watching.
I know. In all positiveness.
No, we love. No, I love him, but he is. It's just the way his mind thinks, and the way
yeah.
he goes. You're just like,
Yes.
wow,
So much
he's-
energy out of a little guy.
Absolutely.
You're right.
It's crazy. The comparison that I've seen is John MacArthur, you have hands on lap, and then you have John Piper, hands and definitely never touching the lap.
Exactly. Yeah, no, John Piper is crazy.
Yeah.
He is just. I mean, he's great. He has
He's on
tons of
fire
energy.
for the Lord,
he loves the
whenever he
Lord and
speaks.
the blazing center.
In the way that he can just engage different cultures. You know, he can go from high schoolers to college age to adults to senior adults who have been in the faith for a long time. Like he can just bring everybody in and just gospel centeredness. That's great.
That's good.
Who I guess the second part of his question: who were you, Mike, surprised?
So
I guess
I kind of have a tie per se because I can. Um, Max Stiles did one on Jonah, and it was probably the best just sermon that I've ever heard on just talking of Jonah and just the need for repentance and how it's just kind of our walk in life of being just a believer, how he pulls us when we are trying to be completely opposite of what Christ wants us. And then by the end of the story of Jonah, it's just Christ, and he's still there for us no matter how much that we turn away from him.
Yeah.
And so he was the one, and then Tripoli's on the local church was very awe-inspiring too, just motivational.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that Tripoli is like he's a bona fide pastor. Like he
he's
went
ordained.
to seminary, ordained. Like you know, he's the real deal. There, it wasn't just someone's like, hey, you're famous, you should be a pastor. I ordain you. Like he really got his chops there on it. And I saw like snippets on Twitter and other social media about it. And man, I mean, he's always been very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's good because he's so used to, he's a rapper. For those that don't know, he was known for that in, I guess, the 116 clique through Reach Records and stuff. But the crew. But to see how he's come from that, and he still raps. I mean, he's still got stuff.
Yeah,
As a matter of fact, I saw they're going on tour this next summer.
Yeah,
they're all coming back together. They're all coming back together, like Lecrae, all those guys, the whole 116, Tadashi, all them.
Yeah,
which is really neat to see that. But to see how God's taken him from that area of his life to literally standing behind a pulpit and preaching the word of God is like, man, that's encouraging to me. Because if you're a Christian, it was just a reminder to say, no matter what you're doing in your life, we should be able to preach a sermon of our life.
Right.
Like, this is who Christ is. So I don't care if you're a plumber, if you're a garbage man, if you're a mailman, if you work as a greeter in the church, no matter what it is, if you're called to be, if you claim to be a Christian, well, then everything about your life, you should be able to get up and say, this is who Christ is, and this is who he is to me, and this is who he is for you.
Rightly dividing the word of truth.
Exactly. Right? And for him to see him get up there and say, this isn't about me being a rapper, I'm like, there was no mention of that.
Right.
He just opened up the word of God just like Piper would have, or whoever. And it was just
like
really
that's
good.
the thing that I think is impressive to me too, is you're right. It's not the lights and sounds and fog machines and everything to get you hype, that you would think at a rap concert. Like what I've seen is him, his Bible, a podium, and just teaching. And I mean,
he loves it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So he, and then I had never heard of Mez McConnell, I think his name is.
Oh, yeah. So Mez McConnell is a so there's a friend of ours. I guess I can say her name. It wouldn't danger, but Patty, who is a missionary in Ireland.
Okay. And
she actually messaged me before I went and said, "Hey, so glad you get to go on that trip. I hope you get to meet Mez McConnell." I had no clue who this guy was, Mez McConnell. No idea. As a matter of fact, I forgot about the text that she sent me until he didn't even have like a full session, which was kind of weird. Like I would have listened to him a whole sermon, but he only had like 15 minutes.
Yeah, he did.
And he made sure to know that he only had 15 minutes. He's like, so they've only given me 15 minutes. And he's a Scottish missionary who, man, his story is amazing. But the way that Colton, I don't know what the right word is. I don't know. The way that he kind of like dropped the mic on American missions, I guess, was convicting.
Yeah.
And when he was saying stuff like, we don't want you bringing youth groups over here just to take selfies and just to buy souvenirs to bring back. Like, we want people who are ready to exhaust themselves on the mission field. He said, because so many times in America, missions is just this, okay, let's get a bunch of youth together. We're going to Africa. We're going to whatever. Let's post a bunch of pictures on Instagram. Let's do this and do that. Meanwhile, the gospel and the message is never proclaimed because a lot of these kids and people that go don't even know what the gospel is.
Right.
So for him to just to kind of lay that out for everybody, man, it was convicting. Yeah. And especially for him to keep saying that, I don't know, it was almost like I was thinking, are they going to pull him off the stage right now? Because he was pretty harsh. Like, there's some things he said that was like pretty harsh, and he just kept saying, but I only have 15 minutes, so I can only do this.
Maybe that's why they only gave him 15.
Yeah.
That's all we can handle, buddy.
I think when he first got up there, he says, a lot of people see me as an angry leprechaun or something like that. Yeah.
He's probably 5'2".
He was small.
Yeah, no, of course.
But man, he was on fire for the Lord, and so that was really encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, seeing his story about a guy who like went through like a really rough upbringing, and I think that's what brings him to a more raw, like, this is just me type of attitude when it comes to things, and someone who like earnestly desires just real
Yeah.
in their life, I think is partially because of what his testimony is.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely appreciated that. Because I think they're right. So many people today. I've heard this so many times. Where people are going on missions trips and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna get there in the first couple of days. We're just gonna see some sights, and then we're gonna go do this for like a couple of days,
Right.
and then we're gonna end the rest of the week going over here and seeing some sights." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"So out of like 10 days, you're actually doing like 3 days of ministry,
Right.
and the rest you're being a tourist. Like, what have you done?"
Right. Yeah. You should be exhausted at the end of it's not a vacation, you know?
And I'm sure they actually said something. I'm sure they did, but part of it has to be like your whole life has to be one of a missionary. I'm sure they brought that out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I guess to answer your question for me, I was looking forward to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot.
No. No. So I was just thinking about it because he was talking about that. But what you just said made me really think about it. But I think I was most looking forward to the Beatty.
Oh,
because you and I have talked about him.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. And Colton has mentioned him to me a lot. I just never really heard him as much as you guys had.
Love that man's preaching.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So I wasn't disappointed. I wasn't disappointed with anybody, but I guess I was really looking forward to him the most. But I think for me, one of the most that I was really shocked was, I have to agree with him. Like, Trip Lee was like, I guess I just didn't know what to expect because I never heard him speak. I'd heard Piper a few times. Like, I've been to Desiring God conferences and I've sang at them before, so I'd heard him a few times. But
like he just drops it there. I've sang at Desiring God.
We're not friends or anything.
It's the buttery voice.
He signed one of my books and said to Heyward. But I also enjoyed guys like Zane Pratt, who is on the mission field, like working hard, and then going to his discussion breakout groups, and just to hear him talking about having realistic expectations when you're on the mission field was really good. It was really practical of things that, even things like being in shape and like working out before you go and things like that. It's like, you don't hear that a lot. You just hear like, oh, be sharp in the Bible. But he was talking about, whatever comforts that you're used to here, don't expect them overseas, and be ready to work. And he said how many times people go over to, teams will come over and they'll be exhausted because they have to walk miles to go somewhere where they're used to driving. So little things like that, So that was really good. I really enjoyed him. The humility of that. But I think just overall, the layout of all the speakers and the way that the whole conference flowed was really good. And it was really, I say this in a weird way, but it was really comfortable. Does that make sense, Colton? I don't know if that's way to say that.
I definitely agree. I think because they put it for 18 to 25-year-olds and their leaders, everyone there had kind of a, per se, environment that they were used to.
Sure.
And the speakers knew how to reach this group. And so, even just with the worship itself starting there, seeing 7,500 people just singing in one voice of 18 to 25-year-olds in our generation. And that's awe-inspiring just in itself, that they would all come, 18 to 25-year-olds who could be playing Fortnite or playing Call of Duty or something, but instead they're all here worshiping. It was, it started off that, and then every session, breakout, panels, you were at the edge of your seat just taking notes. And for me, my iPad battery went down so much after every one because I was typing so much. But I think they really knew how to reach, at least for this conference, and I think that's what makes it such a powerful conference.
So give us a feeling. I think, Colton, you'd be the best to answer this. Is the difference in the vibe, you would say, from like a T4G versus like a Cross 19, or Cross for the Nations? If someone were to go, from that age group, 18 to 25 or so, like, what do you think the difference was in how the vibe or how the people were, or?
So for Together for the Gospel, starting with the worship, you had Bob Coughlin, who was on a piano, period. And that was it. And
all right.
you did hymns, and there were a few more modern songs, but with it, you had 12,000 people who were singing in one accord just as much as the 7,500 at Cross for the Nations. And it was awe-inspiring just the same.
But it was a dude on a piano.
But it was a dude on a piano,
all right,
by himself on like a giant stage in University of Kentucky, and you could barely see him, kind of looking through binoculars.
Sure.
But I think that just with the Together for the Gospel, it was definitely, you had to know your Bible very, very well before you came into together for the gospel. Not to say that for Cross for the Conference you didn't need to, because it definitely helped as well. But they knew that there were going to be people who might have just been invited. It was a college ministry that they could have been invited to, and I think they knew that at heart coming into this conference.
So was it said before, like, this would be a something you would bring an unsaved person to?
There was an option. I know at Together for the Gospel, when David Platt even introduced it, he said, this is an opportunity for you to get college people to come here.
Okay.
And he never said, bring your Christian 18 to 25 year olds. It was just bring them in.
Bring whoever.
And I mean, even in our group, I think that we had some that were probably not as well deep into the Bible as others, but they were just as much involved into it as any of us who have been at church the Sunday after we were born.
That's cool.
And, it's good to see that a way to reach out from college students, because you're right, it wasn't like it was just a quick weekend. It was like most of the week, right. And it was New Year's, like it was literally
day
right after New Year's. And so to have college age students, we say young adult because it is that young adult
yams.
The yams.
Do you guys know we call you yams?
Young adult ministry.
Okay, young adult ministry. Yeah. Okay.
Some of you are candied yams, but
I better not be one of those.
Oh man. But anyway, just to say, I think it's the difference, like what you're saying, is just having that, and for people to see, and I think this is how churches should be. Is, man, there's an excitement as a Christian, and not only that, but there's an excitement as a Christian to not only know what we believe here, but to take that overseas.
Yeah.
Not only to take it overseas, but young people to actually say, you know what, I think I'm called to this.
Yeah.
You know what, I think that this job opportunity that my parents really want me to go into, or that the world's saying I should be doing, man, I find this more awe-inspiring for me right now, and why not go? And I think that's the question a lot of times is, like, when it comes to missions, why not you?
Right.
Yeah, we could send A, B, C, and D, but hey, why not you? Sure. And I think that's what was really a theme that I considered. One of the things they kept saying was consider your whole life. We actually have these bracelets that I've been wearing since, and I know Colton is, and I literally look at it all the time. I know a lot of people have tattoos like that.
What does consider your whole life mean? So
I know at the end of the conference, it started at the beginning and the end. And I know, was it David Platt, I think, asked John Piper, and he said, Piper, like, let's tell, like, where did this come from? Like, where did this idea of this whole conference come from for people who are new? And one of the things that he said was, Piper said, the reason that there's not a lot of lights and fog and all of this hoopla going on in this room is because what we're going to be dealing with is serious. I don't know if you remember him saying that, but he's like, and it was like this solemn just feeling over the whole arena to say, what we're going to be talking about this week is a serious situation. Like, we're talking about the nations, and we're talking about billions of people who may die in their sins. And so when you hear somebody say that, man, everything about you changes. And you realize, like, the worship was just it was freeing, but you didn't have, like, the laser lights everywhere and the fog machines everywhere and the huge sound systems. And it sounded great and it looked great, but that wasn't the purpose. And so when it says to consider your whole life, it was to say, consider your life as where you were before Christ, consider your life as you are in Christ, and then consider what God is doing in your life to say, man, my life means more as a Christian than just going to church, than just giving my tithes, than just as a single person babysitting when people ask. My life is more than that, and it's deeper than that. So what is it to consider? And then when you see throughout the scriptures, like Colton said, going from Genesis to Revelation and saying Christ was in every book of the Bible, and this is the same one who is even now pleading for you at the right hand of the Father. How could you not want to just cry out and say, okay, here I am,
right, use
me? And so you're considering your whole life. If it's in marriage, if it's in singleness, if it's in a divorce, if it's in grief, whatever it is, Lord, I'm considering my whole life in you. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, definitely. That's cool. I mean, and considering, how can I be a part of this missions, and not just, because I know they said there's like people who go and then people who hold the rope, right? That's a common illustration that they've used before. But sometimes, you're like, well, how close to going can I be? Like, what if I do maybe if I can't go full time, maybe I can do several missions trips, a year, or, maybe make it a regular thing that I go to a specific people and I minister to them and or help out these missionaries at the same time? Like how close can you get? Or, even more so, why not, like you said, why not be the person who goes full time? Isaiah, here my Lord, send me.
Right.
I think one of the things, and you'll probably remember too, Zane Pratt was on a panel with Max Stiles. Max Stiles is in Israel, isn't he? Or Iraq, I think.
I think he's Iraq because he talked about Nineveh
Yeah.
being the capital of Iraq now.
Mosul,
Wow.
Mosul or something.
Mosul, yeah. And how interesting that is, like when you think about the story of Jonah. Yeah.
But going on with that, just that they just kind of gave a prompt to everyone saying short-term missions are a great opportunity, but you should, if you are praying to be a goer, short-term mission should not be where you stop. You should be going from short-term to even longer term to eventually being, this is your passion. You're there for a life. It's a life mission.
Right.
Then going to where, consider your whole life. If it's being a sender, then your whole life you are discipling people. You are not just giving money. You're discipling people here to send them out. To, if they are going to be a goer, that they will be going not just for short time, but going for their whole life as well.
Yeah, that's good.
Now, does the International Mission
Board?
I kept wanting to say Force Foundation? No. Do they have a specific training for people who want to be missionaries? Did they talk about that? Like, is there something that they do? Or
another thing about this conference, there was a lot of different booths set up.
Okay.
So International Mission Board was one of them. They were one of the biggest ones, I think.
They were the one right before you sat down.
Yeah, like you literally had to walk through their booth pretty much to get to.
I mean,
the
it's
seating.
their conference, so I guess we'll allow it.
One thing, a side note about that is they had basically these huge, almost like
Cardboard
walls of scripture. So like it'd be Matthew, Mark. It was the whole New Testament. So each panel would be like whatever they could fit on that, and they were raising money to translate the New Testament in 3 different languages?
4 different languages.
4 different languages. And so what you did is you paid $10 and you got to translate 3 verses. So when you pay that $10, you got a highlighter, walked over to the wall, and you picked your verses and highlighted them. And the whole point of it for the whole week was to basically have the whole wall highlighted.
Wow.
Have the whole thing, because that meant the whole book was or New Testament was highlighted. So it was really neat. Like it was really cool to like.
That's a cool
to
visual.
do that. Yeah. And when I did it like the first night, I remember looking. There weren't a ton of people that had done it yet because I didn't even know what it was yet because we hadn't even started our session. I just happened to go by there, so it was really neat. I did Ephesians 1-3. I'm sorry, Ephesians 2:1-3 were my verses. So it was just really neat to see that, and like, man, this is like.
Wait, you didn't do Galatians 2:2-4?
I did. I'm sorry.
I mean,
you know what? I didn't even think about it.
I mean.
Heyward failed for you guys.
I mean,
I totally did. I just love Ephesians too. I really do. But it's just really neat because in my mind, though, I'm gonna be totally honest. Throughout the week, whenever I walk by there, I'm like, "There's no way they're gonna fill this up. There's no way. There's so many open verses." Right. And I kept thinking, "Man, should I do it again?" Like, whatever. Well, I think by the end, someone said that they would match whatever everyone at the conference gave, and then I think the last night they announced that they raised over and beyond. It was like they translated the entire thing plus more or something like that. So it was like, even in that little thing, just doubting God and just seeing how he works, here you are 18 to 25 year olds,
I think what's crazy to me about all of that really is you never think that there are still languages that the Bible's not in.
Yeah.
Like whole languages where people have no idea what's going on about the gospel because they don't even have the Bible to tell them.
Right.
That's insane because, like we go on, like you go to Google Translate and you're just like, oh, whatever language I pick.
Right.
But I mean, there's definitely little dialects and tribes and places I'm assuming that just, where we just haven't reached yet. And that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. I think just that when you consider not just millions, but there's like billions of people. Yeah. Like that blows my mind. I still think about it every day since the conference. Like I told my wife, I'm like, babe, billions? Like, That's a different. Millions is a lot. If I said, man, there's millions of people I have never heard the gospel. When you think there's billions of people that have never heard anything about the Bible, as a Christian, that should get us off our couches and get us off our seats and be like, okay, this is bigger than just my salvation. This is bigger than just my church. This is bigger than just my city. And man, that was convicting to me to hear that.
So, like kind of starting to round up here, what would you say from that conference, one thing that you learned that changed your life?
I think for me personally, just kind of the definition they gave as a sender per se, because I mean I've been in the church as a church planner son the whole entire time, and with that, my dad would always go to different churches, and they would just donate to him to help with his ministry at his church that we were at that time. And that was just kind of how we made our way, made our living. And so for the longest time, a sender was someone who paid money. It was just, that was it.
Checkbook.
And, yeah, if you had a checkbook, then you should give. But then just how they, just that going in senders are the same. It's not one is higher than the other. You are just as important as a goer as you are as a sender. Because if you have no one who is discipling in your local church, then you have no one who's going to be strong and in the Lord, willing to serve in other areas, be it your town next over, or it could be in some tribe in Africa. If they're not being trained and being discipled and growing in the Lord at the point, why are they ever going to be growing and getting stronger if they're trying to do the same thing over in another nation?
I gotcha. Yeah, definitely. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good.
How about you?
One of the things that I really took back was how you can't separate the local church and missions. I know that's one of the main things that Tripoli spoke about is just the love that the local church should have for each other. And if you don't love the people sitting in the pew next to you, you're not going to love people overseas. And it was, man, that was convicting, because I think that's true. A lot of times you come to church and you just kind of are acquaintances. But that's not how the local church is set up to be. That's not how Christ set it to be. One of the things that he said was, if you don't love the church, how can you go to missions? Another thing said, if church is boring to you now, it will be boring to you somewhere else in a different language. Man, that convicted me, because I was like, it's so true. Like it's God's church. It's not my church. It's not your church. It's like it's God's church. And if His word is boring to you here, where you are and where you're serving now, well, it's not going to change when you go overseas. And so it's really a mindset of, like I was saying, considering my whole life, Heyward, consider who you are. Are you doing what's right? And when I got back, I sat down with my wife and I just said, babe, I was like, I think everything about my ministry is like, has to radically be reevaluated for me. My compassion, my heart for worship when I'm leading, my heart for Crossroads when we're teaching, my friendships. Like, I had to really say to myself, like, what friendships are edifying me to the cross? Or is it more important for me to have more likes or more friends on Instagram or Facebook than to have true friendships where I know, like, hey, I'm struggling spiritually, I need you, and I know that person can be like, okay, let's get together and let's talk to this together. Because I think the older you get and the more mature you get in the faith, those are the friendships that are going to last in the Christian walk, and you're going to want those more so than someone just saying whatever just so you hear it for lip service. And so a lot of that I've been wrestling with in my heart, and since we've been back, and just saying, God, if it takes you radically transforming everything about me and my ministry, well, then I need you to do that, and I'm willing for that to happen. And what's been sweet is my wife has been right there next to me. So I think for me, that's the biggest. All right.
Well, good. So definitely recommend it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, it happens every 3 years?
Yeah, I think it goes every 3 years, and they are trying to make it biannually.
Okay. Would they run it? Would you rather go to T4G or Cross for the Nations? Oh, I'm putting you on the spot.
That's a tough question. Thanks for that to finish this off.
You don't have to.
But
both. Maybe they'll just go in
go
different years, and we'll.
I think
they alternate, don't they?
Yeah, they alternate.
They alternate years.
So, I think at least for me, being a 25-year-old, I think Cross for the Nations is an awesome conference. If you have never gone to a Christian conference before,
go at least once.
Go to this one.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Colton.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Colton, it was great to have you.
Thank you guys for listening. Of course, we always appreciate the support and all the feedback we get.
Yeah.
No, we do get some feedback. Ain't nobody Gmail us though.
Yeah, come on. I had to check to see if our account was still open. I'm like, is it still ill? Hey, somebody, let's do this. How about this, Paul? because we have some stuff coming.
We do.
Right? We have some swag coming. The first person to send us an email on our email account, you will get a free shirt.
There you go.
How about that?
Just put your address in it.
Yeah.
We
you
won't
gotta put
stalk
your
you.
Just put your address.
It's not a scam. I
And what
promise.
size you need.
Yeah.
And we'll send you that.
And Colton, it can't be you because you're going to do it right when you get off.
Yeah.
Before the
I have
minute.
the phone out already, so
Yeah, we'll give you one anyways because you were our first
You were our
guest.
first
That's
guest.
awesome.
I feel honored.
That's awesome.
So, all right, guys. Well, we hope this was edifying for you. Again, that was Cross for the Nations, put on by the International Mission Board. We'll put a link in the description below. We just appreciate you guys following us on Instagram and Facebook. And till next time.
God bless you guys.